Welcome to Taste of Life, an interactive travel series for the gourmet in us all. Today's Epicurean Odyssey takes us to one of Atlantic Canada's most exciting cities, Halifax, Nova Scotia. In a province where no one is more than 35 miles from the ocean, Halifax is the ultimate seaside city. Tourism's Laurie Patterson tells us about the historical vitality and charm that persists today in a community with a culture still anchored to the sea. Jerry Lunn of the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic shows us how Halifax's ties to the ocean are brought to life for visitors. Come with us as we explore Halifax, from the Citadel to the city streets. Historic downtown is where we find Maple, our fine dining choice in Halifax. There, executive chef proprietor Michael Smith whips up a deceptively simple dish: scrambled eggs like you've never imagined, with smoked salmon and lobster. These lobsters have a fascinating story too. It's told to us by Colin McDonald of Clearwater Lobster.
Taste of Life will be right back from Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Halifax is not only the gateway to the Maritimes, it's also one of Canada's most significant avenues to the sea. If Halifax's location didn't make the city so special, its astonishing natural harbor would. The city is the easternmost seaport in continental North America, and Halifax has one of the world's deepest, year-round, ice-free harbors. So it's not surprising how the history of Halifax unfolded. In 1749, General Cornwallis established the garrison and a British stronghold in North America. That launched Halifax as one of the continent's most commercially and militarily important ports for hundreds of years to come. The progress of Halifax is preserved at the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic, where exhibits put the modern maritime culture of Nova Scotia in context for visitors.
I like to think of our museum as the museum of people in the sea, where you can come to find out quite a bit about what Nova Scotians are made of, why the sea gets in our blood. So you can come here to find out about the Navy and Halifax as a Navy town. You can come here to find out about the golden age of sail during the middle part of the 19th century, or age of steam during the middle part of the 20th century. Some of the icons that immediately come to my mind: we have a beautiful, huge light, a glass Fresnel lens from the Sambro Island Lighthouse. Sambro Island Lighthouse is the oldest operating lighthouse in North America, just outside Halifax Harbor. As well, we have a deck chair from the Titanic. For years, we thought it was the only deck chair that existed. We acquired it from a family in Nova Scotia who had it sitting on their porch for years as a piece of porch furniture. But it was donated to the museum, and it's become well recognized, especially with the knowledge and interest in Titanic over the last few years.
Tragedy struck again during the First World War, when a munition ship collided in the harbor with a relief ship, killing thousands. It was the largest man-made explosion before the atomic bomb. But Halifax rebuilt, and quickly. There was no time to pause in a port so vital to the defense of the North Atlantic, a role Halifax played again in the Second World War.
Halifax Harbor, of course, was where they convoyed all of the ships for the North American defense during the World War. And that little island that you see, George's Island, was the head of the defense system, or one of the prime areas for the defense system during the war. And behind us up at the head of the harbor is what's known as Bedford Basin, and that was where they convoyed, I think it was up to 300 ships before they went across the Atlantic during World War II.
For 500,000 troops, this pier was their last view of Canada on their way to war overseas. And it was the first view for many new Canadians. Pier 21 is Canada's last remaining immigration shed. The walls can't speak, but the exhibits tell the emotional tale of people who came into Canada or left to defend it. Nearly 1 million immigrants, refugees, war brides, and children evacuees first stepped foot into hope and peace and safety in Halifax. Other Halifax landmarks have been saved from the passage of time too. The harborfront area, now known as the Historic Properties, survived the Halifax explosion. And now, these 19th century warehouses and cobblestone walkways are the focal point of the harbor's bustling cultural life. The shipping and military town has other dregs from the past too. Pubs that take full advantage of the harborfront's prime location as a meeting place and open-air theater. Head out to sea for an unforgettable performance on Mother Nature's stage. Here, the performers are larger than life, and the audience awestruck. At sea or on land, Halifax begs to be explored. There's still more natural beauty back on shore. Halifax has an abundance of green space, including North America's oldest and possibly finest Victorian formal gardens. The simply named public gardens are a public treasure to this day. And overlooking it all, the Citadel, the impressive fortress perched on Signal Hill, looming protectively over the harbor. The Citadel was originally built in 1749 to defend the strategic Halifax Naval Station. In its centuries of readiness, it has never come under attack. But until World War II, the garrison played a key role in the life of Halifax. And even today, the daily firing of the noonday gun marks time for all of Halifax. The skirl of bagpipes and swirl of kilts recreate the period when the famed 78th Highland Regiment was stationed at New Scotland's Great Citadel. Follow the shoreline outside of Halifax to two of the area's world-renowned cultural treasures. First stop, Peggy's Cove. The picture-perfect lighthouse makes it easy to forget its importance to sailors and fishermen. This tiny community where the Atlantic's waves crash against scarred and craggy shores is said to be the most photographed fishing village in the world. Lunenburg is another fishing town, but that's not what made it a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Lunenburg has not only stood the test of time, it virtually stopped the clock, with stringent preservation of its rainbow-hued architecture. The traditions of the sea are strong in Lunenburg, whose shipyards gave birth to Canada's most famous vessel, the championship schooner, the Blue Nose. The racing ship and its successor are symbols of maritime pride in Canada to this day. When we come back, the flavors of the Maritimes, eggs with smoked salmon and lobster. Our fine dining choice in Halifax is Maple, with executive chef and proprietor Michael Smith. Maple is right at the edge of the historic properties in a restored heritage building. The character of the building translates into a unique character for the restaurant. Close to the waterfront and the banking area, Maple is as well positioned for a power lunch as it is for a romantic dinner on vacation. Michael Smith is chef, TV host, and author. Maple is a manifestation of his vision.
As with any restaurant, we're wholly focused on creating the whole picture, the whole spectrum that it takes to define a restaurant experience. From the ambiance, to the style of service, to the way the menu's written, to the lighting, to the sound, to the open kitchen. All of these things contribute to the memories that our guests have of Maple. But I think the neatest thing that they go away with is the understanding that they've just had Canadian cuisine and that it's just as exciting as any place in the world.
Is it fish or is it all fish and shellfish?
This is a really interesting space to cook in. We had a lot of fun restoring this building and getting it to the stage that you see now. We've got this sort of multi-level thing going on, and there's all these various levels. So there's nooks and crannies for privacy, and there's also sort of the open spaces so people can see and be seen. This is very much that type of restaurant. Of course, the kitchen's on display and everybody can see into the kitchen. And if you're not into that sort of thing and you really don't want to see the chef making your meal, you can sit in our downstairs dining room and it's nice and quiet and secluded down there. So it's really kind of a funky space. At Maple, we serve what I call progressive Canadian cuisine, and those are three carefully chosen words that I think describe exactly what we're doing here, as well as the name of the restaurant. Maple is a good metaphorical representation of the ingredients and the spirit of the restaurant. We're wholly focused on showing off the best ingredients in Canada. We go to great lengths to find the people in the corners of the country hidden away that are growing the best herbs and producing the best this and finding the best that, and that's really the essence of what we do here. We get the best ingredients we can in Canada, and we show them off in a very contemporary, very creative way that you would expect to find in the biggest cities around the world, that sort of very energetic, here and now sort of cuisine. I think one of the neatest things about cooking is the opportunity to be creative with what we're doing. It's certainly an interesting part of it is that you get to come up with flavor combinations, and certainly the presentation is always an issue, especially in a restaurant like this one. And the passion that I have for it gets to come out, and I get to share what it is that I feel about what I do with my guests and put a smile on their face every day. It's a heck of a thing to be able to get up in the morning and then go striding off down to the restaurant and get to cook all day long like this. It's wonderful.
Today's specialty recipe is scrambled eggs with smoked salmon and lobster. For a copy of this exclusive recipe, visit our website or call us toll-free.
Welcome to the kitchen. What we're going to make today is a dish that shows off our local smoked salmon. As you can see, I've got some standing by here and I've put it into an interesting little mold. What we're going to fill it with is scrambled eggs. What I have here is the mise en place for the scrambled eggs. Of course, we've got the egg. We're going to put in some of our famous Nova Scotia lobster, some Oka cheese, which is a wonderful cheese from Quebec, a nice creamy cheese, and some minced chives. So, without further ado, the scrambled eggs. Just fire that up. Now, when I was an apprentice cook in London, one of the first things I had to do was learn how to make proper scrambled eggs. It's not as easy as you think, folks. The whole trick to it is to do it nice and slow, to take your time with it. Patience is a virtue in cuisine. So, in goes our eggs. Now, the secret ingredient in these eggs here is actually a little bit of water. I've added just the slightest little bit, and notice that I'm stirring very quickly here. We want to get these nice and creamy, so don't get your pan too hot. There we go. They set up very quickly, and that Oka cheese melts in really nice. Now we'll take that scrambled egg, we'll pop it right into that mold that we showed you. There we go. Okay, these are the best scrambled eggs you'll ever have. I'll top that off with a nice piece of toast. This is actually whole grain bread that we've toasted off in the oven. We'll flip that over, but before we do, let's get our plate ready. I've got a chive hollandaise standing by. Just pour some of that right into the center of the plate. This, of course, is a sauce made with egg yolks and lots of good butter. This isn't a spa, folks. We'll flip that over like that, and we'll transfer it to the plate. We'll carefully take that mold off of there. There we go. Look at that, isn't that sleek? Now we'll garnish it up with some more eggs. I'm using Canada's caviar, salmon caviar. Just pop that right on there, a nice big chunk of that. And what better garnish to use than a little anchor? Check it out. Pop that on there. This anchor is actually made out of pureed potato. It's a nice garnish to have kicking around. Let's see, what else can we figure out here? Maybe a little dill. Kind of looks like seaweed, doesn't it? And last but not least, some chive. And there you have it, scrambled eggs my style. We've got scrambled eggs stuffed into smoked salmon with a chive hollandaise, Canada's caviar, and an anchor to top it off. Very nice.
When we return, checking in at a lobster hotel. Stay with us. The waters that define Atlantic Canada are at times breathtaking, at times stormy, and at times inconceivably cold. They are also home to species that have a reputation of being at the pinnacle of haute cuisine. Harvesting the fruits of the sea is both an enormous commercial undertaking in maritime Canada and also a great source of pride. Chefs seem to have a never-ending creativity when it comes to finding delectable ways of preparing Atlantic shellfish. Gourmets around the world and visitors to the Maritimes have a similarly never-ending appetite for the succulent seafood. Natural abundance and high demand have helped make Clearwater Canada's largest shellfish company.
Clearwater's primary markets are, we ship about 1/3 of our product to Asia, Japan, Asia. We ship about 1/3 to the USA, and the other 1/3 we ship to Europe.
Harvesting and processing of scallops, shrimp, and live lobster takes place throughout Atlantic Canada.
We had to come up with a way to provide the market with a 12-month supply of lobsters. Clearwater designed a system where we keep our animals individually in very tight environments so they have that same sense of security and comfort. We lower the water temperature down to the same level that they prefer in the natural environment, and effectively we put the animal to sleep, or we allow the animal to relax and be preserved in a fresh-caught condition until we need to remove the animal and ship it on to our customer.
Clearwater's involvement with Premier Shellfish extends beyond harvesting and sales. It also employs full-time biologists. They conduct research into the health and well-being of the natural resources of the seas and participate in government research projects, as well as ocean mapping and stock evaluations. Clearwater has good reasons for that investment.
We do a number of research projects that enhance and to understand our stocks, the products we harvest from the ocean bottom. We're in the business for the long term. We're not interested in a 1-year harvest or a 2-year harvest. We're interested in building harvesting techniques and methods and stock enhancement so that we're here for the next 100 years and into the future beyond that.
Modern technologies, communications, and transportation are moving Clearwater to the forefront of international luxury seafood production, even as the Nova Scotia company maintains the traditional maritime strengths of seamanship and fishing. Halifax has a reputation as one of Canada's most vibrant and exciting cities, but there's so much more, a maritime warmth and natural beauty that will make you long to stay and experience it all over again. Join us again soon for another Taste of Life. Lincoln is a proud sponsor of Taste of Life. We were guests in downtown Halifax at the Halliburton House Inn. Visit us at tasteoflife.com or call us toll-free at 1-888-41-TASTE.